Okay, this is part of the deposition where we start talking to John now. Let's see where John lands in some of this.
John Ramsey in the case of Robert Christian Wolf versus John Bennett Ramsey and Patricia Paul Ramsey. I am the lead counsel for the plaintiff, Chris Wolf. The gentleman here identify themselves.
My name is Lynn Wood. I represent the defendants, John and Patsy Ramsey.
My name is Jim Rawls. I am co-counsel for the defendants, John and Patsy Ramsey.
I'm Patsy Ramsey. Haley Paul.
Eric Schroeder. Evan Altman, co-counsel with Darnay Hoffman, representing the plaintiff.
The deposition is taken pursuant to the federal rules of civil procedure. The deposition is taken pursuant to agreement of counsel. Deposition is taken pursuant to a stipulation and protective order agreed to by all parties, which protective order specifically states, as we went over yesterday, the right of counsel to make sure that this deposition is not abused.
His name is John Bennett. I didn't know that. His full name is John Bennett. Like John Bennett. And they just kind of switched around. It's like John Benet was like a junior. And so that makes me wonder, there's obviously some sort of love and proximity there. Why would you name her his full name? What did John Benet mean to him where you essentially named her his full name? What kind of protection, what kind of affinity did he have for John Benet that she would take his name and completely bypass Burke and call Burke Burke instead of saying John Bennett Jr.? We skip him, make him Burke, and then we go to the daughter and name her John Benet.
And that only areas that are relevant to the claims and defenses in this lawsuit are inquired of today in this deposition. Anything you want to add to that, Mr. Hoffman?
No, sounds like pretty much what we agreed yesterday was the case. And I believe yesterday you also explained what you believe the claims were, in fact, that would be relevant with respect to the deposition. So based on yesterday's statement, we'll just continue the deposition.
And swear the witness, please.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony about to give you the truth, all truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Your full name, please, sir.
John Bennett Ramsey.
Have you ever attended a deposition before?
Yes.
Are you familiar with deposition procedure?
I wouldn't say I'm familiar with it. I've been in one deposition.
All right. If at any time you don't understand,
He will answer questions, and he understands how to proceed with answering your questions. You do not need to counsel or advise him in that regard. Your job is to ask questions. If you would go.
You please, for the love of God, let this man finish his sentence before you bust in with that stuff. Golly.
Go ahead and pose a question to the witness, please, sir.
This is my deposition, Mr.
It is your
Wood.
deposition, but you're not here to
Please.
lecture or counsel or advise my witness on what he is to do or not to do. Trust me, he will answer your questions, and if he doesn't understand them, he will so indicate. Ask your first question.
Oh, so you got a bad attitude? So you trying to get stern? So you mad? I guess this is the next day at the top of the morning? You got a problem?
Question, please.
Mr. Ramsey, who is Chris Wolf?
Chris Wolf is your client, and he is a person who came to our attention as someone who should be looked at as a possible suspect in the murder of our daughter.
That was disdain. Is your client.
Do you remember how Mr. Wolf came to your attention as a possible suspect?
I believe he contacted my wife's parents. No, I'm sorry. His girlfriend contacted my wife's parents and said she firmly believed that he was the killer of my daughter, that he had been out all night, returned home early that morning, and that we needed to look at him.
Do you know what was done with that information when your parents or Mrs. Ramsey's parents were given that?
I'm sure we referred it to our attorneys through our attorneys to our investigators.
Right. Do you know which investigators were?
He's already defensive. He's already got a bad attitude. He's already highly annoyed. He's taking more. Patsy's energy with the lawyer was, I'm just going to let him take care of everything and he's going to protect me. Well, John, it's like the lawyer is emboldening him. He takes it as being emboldened to step out a little bit more and be a little bit more brash. You see, he's staring Mr. Hoffman down. He's sitting forward. Patsy was just like doing that. John is like sitting forward, looking this man dead in his eye. John is ready for battle.
Were responsible for investigating that claim on your behalf?
Not for certain. I think probably they were involved, each involved at different stages.
Do you know the names of the investigators that were involved?
I do.
Could you give me the names?
Well, there was a group called Ellis Armistead and Associates, David Williams, John, and I can't think of his last name. Those were the principal investigators that our attorneys retained.
Without revealing the substance of what you were given with respect to any reports that your investigators may have given you, do you remember if you ever saw any investigative reports concerning Chris Wolf?
I don't remember seeing any investigative reports regarding Chris Wolf.
Do you remember whether or not you were shown investigative reports with respect to any of the other potential suspects that you may or may not have been looking at?
I don't recall ever seeing a report on any suspect that they might have looked at.
All right. For the purpose of my next question, I'd like the court reporter to please mark this as Plaintiff's Exhibit
14.
14.
I think where he's trying to go is if you haven't heard any investigative reports, how then could you up and accuse my client just based off of somebody giving a call to your family about him? What would make him different from any other person? You know.
Plaintiff's Exhibit 14 for identification. And actually, I'm going to turn to the point, you can review the whole document, but the point at which I'm going to direct Mr. Ramsey to look at this. Thank you.
You want me to read this part that's highlighted?
Yes, after you've had an opportunity to read it to yourself, please read it out loud.
You want me to read it out loud?
Yes,
I'm sorry,
please
I wasn't
do.
listening.
Thank
I was
you,
reading.
Mr. Ramsey.
Katie Couric, you also mentioned Chris Wolf, a total stranger whose girlfriend reported that he had disappeared on Christmas night and was very agitated, rather, when he watched the news of the murder on TV. John Ramsey, Katie Couric, why do you mention him? John Ramsey, because he'd been widely mentioned in the news and we wanted to clarify the facts that we knew. John Ramsey, I can tell you when we first started looking at it, one particular lead early on, my reaction was, this is it, this is the killer. And our investigator said, whoa, whoa, whoa. he'd say, "Don't do a Boulder police on me. Don't rush to conclusions."
Do you remember making this statement?
I don't remember making the statement, but that was a number of years ago, I guess. So
In fact, just simply for the record, I believe this is the Katie Couric Today show. It was aired on, I believe, March 24th, and I believe it was in the year 2000.
You're talking about the statement to Katie or the statement to the investigator?
The statement to Katie. That
Do you understand that he was asking if you remember making a statement to Katie as opposed to the investigator?
yeah.
Okay. Now, do you remember who it was that you were made the statement? This is it. This is the killer. Do you remember who that person was? The investigator had shown you material on.
Yes.
Can you name that person?
I don't recall his first name. Helgoth was his last name. Fellow that committed on Valentine's Day, the day that Alex Hunter told the world that they were going to get the killer.
Right. So you were not referring to Chris Wolf in that statement. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, I want to ask you, in the statement, there is a reference to an early lead. What kind of lead was it? Was it, specifically, since you weren't shown any files?
Yeah.
Do you mean how was he imparted the information imparted to him about
I'd asked him earlier if he'd ever had an opportunity to review any of the investigative files on any of the murder suspects.
You asked him if he had ever reviewed any investigative reports.
All right, reports.
And now you're asking him how he obtained the information about Helgoth.
Yeah, if he hadn't seen any investigative reports.
Right.
I think I don't recall specifically whether my attorney told me about him or one of the investigators, but typically I communicated with my attorney.
Were you actually shown evidence, or were you just simply given a summary?
I have not seen any evidence that the police have.
Any evidence that your investigators have?
Thank you.
I've seen a few things relating to your client. I don't know that I've seen anything relating to Helgoth.
It sounds like he's trying to be a little bit careful now because Hoffman caught him on the fact that you haven't seen any reports on my client. Who get, other than being called by my client's girlfriend and y'all subsequently going and putting my client's name in a book, where exactly did it become a valid notion that my client is guilty of your daughter's death? How is that valid? Where'd that come from? That you guys just took off and ran with it? Did y'all see any? Do y'all have any proof? And John is saying, well, no, we don't have any proof from the Boulder Police Department. Yeah. Do you have any proof from anyone? From your lawyers? From anyone? Because I need to figure out, y'all are so bold and forthcoming with information that it's a legitimate theory. And this is what concerns me, because they are grabbing each and every theory. That's why it's extremely difficult for me to consider any other theory, because they're grabbing any theory without checking it and backing up. Oh, someone said so-and-so, he seemed mad, he seemed this, he seemed that. People do that all the time. The man could have went out. The man legitimately could have went out, got in a bar fight at 2 a.m. in the morning, came back home and, tried to sleep with some other woman and it went downhill or something like that. That's what he could have been mad about. But because somebody gives y'all a call and says, hey, here's a tip, y'all are so quick to offload responsibility off of somebody else, even if there's no proof.
Were you involved in directing the activities of these investigators that were working on your behalf?
I was not.
then what was basically your association with the private investigation of the potential suspects in the murder of JonBenet Ramsey?
The investigators were retained by our attorneys, and they stated to me that the principal purpose of those investigators was to prepare a defense in the case that the police might bring a charge against me. I hoped that they would also follow up on leads that came to us, but I was frequently reminded by our attorneys that their principal role was to prepare a defense, should that be necessary.
For a moment, I just want to direct you to.
Wait. You saying that the principal purpose of your principal investigators was not to, as you guys have claimed before, show up the Boulder Police Department. It was to collect enough evidence to provide or prove your innocence beyond a reasonable doubt. That's what it was for. Okay.
The morning of December 26th, and to the degree that you can remember things today, I'd like to ask you if you could just briefly summarize what happened when you got up that morning.
Well, I got up, was showering, getting prepared for a trip that we were leaving on early that morning. I heard Patsy scream. I ran downstairs. She told me that JonBenet was missing, that there was a ransom note. She asked me, what should we do? I said, call the police. Sometime during that frantic period, we checked on Burke. He appeared to be asleep to us. A uniformed officer arrives reasonably quickly. And I focused all the energy I could focus on getting my daughter back.
That's bull crap. That's a bull crap ending to that sentence. And I focused everything I could on getting my daughter back. That's not what I asked you. I'm wondering what you were doing when you woke up. So Patsy got up quick enough because y'all are going on a family trip. Patsy got up. Now, because I know Patsy said she set her clothes out and she got up and put them on almost immediately. And I got to go back to what Mr. Hoffman was asking in the previous interview when he was asking Patsy, what's your normal routine when you wake up in the morning? Get up, you put your clothes on, you go downstairs and make food, or what? Because now I got to go back. Now I got to figure out what Patsy's routine is. Does Patsy get up, put her clothes on, not take a bath, and go on about her day, and take a bath at the end of the day? And John, knowing that they're going to go out of town, because it would seem that Patsy is in some sort of rush to take care of some other duties, whether it be on a daily basis, getting up and going downstairs to make sure the kids are taken care of, then I can drop them off and then I can come back home and take a shower in peace. Or Patsy just doesn't like taking morning showers. But is Patsy going to put on makeup when she gets up in the morning? Because she's getting up and putting on her clothes immediately. But John is getting up and getting in the shower to indicate that they have time. So there's really no need for Patsy to rush up and put on some clothes. But Patsy got up, rushed, put on her clothes, not rushed, but got up, put on her clothes, went down the stairs. But by that time, how is the timeline? By that time, John was already in the shower. How did he get up so fast and get in the shower so fast? Well, how did it take, how long did it take Patsy to put on her clothes?
From that point on.
When the police officer arrived, do you remember the name of the police officer?
I think it was French, was the first one there, Officer French.
Did you have an opportunity to observe what Officer French did at that point when he arrived? Did he speak to you?
He spoke to me. I told him my daughter had been kidnapped. He said, "Do you think she might have just run away?" And I said, "For heaven's sake, she's only 6 years old." "No, I don't." He asked us all to, Patsy and I, to stay in the sunroom, which is a small room off our living room.
Irrelevant.
So I didn't see all that he did beyond that.
You say that he asked you to stay in the sunroom. Did you remain in the sunroom the whole morning?
We did not. Other people arrived. The police arrived. They asked.
That's crazy. You're in the middle of a crime scene and you don't even, the first thing you do is bring people into the crime scene. Officer hasn't even had the opportunity to get there and even like secure the crime scene before you've called people to come over. Screaming privilege of some sort.
To use our cell phones because theirs were dead. They asked us to do a number of things that required us to leave that room.
Did Officer French give you any explanation as to why he wanted you just to remain in the sunroom?
No?
Did anybody ask you to go back to the sunroom and remain there?
No.
Did any other law enforcement official ask you to remain in any other part of the house?
No.
Do you remember, in a general way, where you were in the morning from the time the police arrived and you left the sunroom? Could you just sort of walk me through what was going on?
I was in the house. That's probably the best I could tell you.
Did you ever have occasion prior to, say, 1 o'clock in the afternoon to go down to the basement?
Yes?
How many times?
Twice.
Prior to 1 o'clock?
I don't know what time it was. I wasn't
Prior
paying
to the
attention.
time that I believe it was Linda Arndt had asked people to begin looking around the house?
Linda Arndt asked me to look around the house. Yes.
Did she ask anybody else to do it?
I don't remember her specific instruction, no.
Prior to Linda Arndt asking you to look around the house, how many times did you go to the basement?
Once.
Do you remember at what time in the morning you went to the basement?
I do not.
All right. Do you remember what you saw in the basement when you went down there?
I saw a partially open window with broken glass and a suitcase beneath the window.
When you were, did you see anything else there?
Not that looked out of the ordinary.
May I ask why you went to the basement at that time?
I was trying to determine how someone could have gotten into our house.
Did anyone ask?
So he goes down the stairs. The way the house is laid out. The room is right here that John Bonet is in. The room is right here. Either the door is open or the door is closed. But the room that John Bonet is in is like right here. If I remember correctly, in straight shot, you have to walk up and then turn right. If I'm remembering correctly, because there's a sort of wall or closet right here. So you have to walk up a little bit, just like maybe a couple steps off the stairs. You walk off the stairs and step down, and then you got to take several steps forward and then look to your right, and there in the distance would be the window with the suitcase, and the window was open.
Ask you to go to the basement at that time?
No,
Do you know if anybody saw you go to the basement at that time?
I have no idea.
When you saw that the basement was in the condition that it was in, as you've just described it, and you came back upstairs, did you inform anybody of what you found in the basement?
I don't recall specifically if I did or not. I have a vague recollection of telling Linda Arndt that I found an open window with broken glass, but that I perhaps had broken that glass myself months earlier.
Do you think you might have mentioned that to any other law enforcement officer beside Linda Arndt?
Not that I recall.
And Linda Arndt, being a seasoned or not investigator, maybe she wasn't seasoned, let's say she's a rookie. Linda Arndt, if you're looking for a way that the criminal got in, the detective heard that, and you didn't immediately start discussing theories about how the criminal would have got in the house, and that wouldn't have sprung her into action?
When Linda Arndt asked you to go down to the basement, I think that was sometime in the early afternoon.
I don't remember the time. I really don't.
When she asked you to go down to the basement, could you explain why you chose going to the basement since you'd already been there earlier?
She told me to go through the house and look for anything, go through the house thoroughly, as I recall, and look for anything that seems out of place. And so my intent was to do it thoroughly.
Did you ask Fleet White to join you?
I think I did, as I recall.
Do you remember exactly the sequence of events when you went down to the basement the second time?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me where you looked?
I went back into the train room, showed Fleet the broken window, explained to him that I might have broken it myself months ago. Showed him the suitcase that I saw under the window, which I felt was very out of place.
And unless that door was closed, y'all came straight downstairs. If I'm remembering correctly, y'all were like, boom, this is the door. This is the room John Bonet is in. Boom, went that way and walked down to the suitcase.
We looked for any large pieces of broken glass, and then I
What?
got up and went to the cellar room, opened the door, and found John Bonet.
Do you remember why you decided to go to the cellar door at that particular time?
It was the next door outside of the train room. Other than that, no, it was a methodical search in my mind.
That's not methodical at all. Maybe I'm misremembering. I think I'm misremembering because the boiler room was like right there. You come in and you're in the train room, if I remember correctly, because Dr. Oz was showing this. You come in and you're in the train room, and right here's the boiler room. Is the door open or not? Because the methodical approach would have been to check this door, and then I think there's another door. Check that door, and then you can go down and continue, and then you check the closet right there, and then you can continue to go down where all the Samsonite suitcase is. So I'm, a little concerned about that. He started off very strong, or ready to take on Mr. Hoffman. But now he's looking up doing all this when he's getting ready to answer. So something doesn't feel right about this. Man, something doesn't feel right. But yeah, that's the video. Come back and continue to take a look. But like, share, subscribe, comment, engage. Let me know what you think. Am I way off? Am I on? Who knows? But yeah, till next time, take it easy.